we knew we couldn't repeat the sound that we had on the previous like 3 albums. It's not the same sound, but it's very similar. So we knew we had to do something, and coming up with new music at that point was horrible, I'd say. We didn't know what we were going to do, and then we had a few songs, and they were sounding good, we thought, but it was a bit different, but it's, more or less same old, I guess. And then Johannes, the singer, wrote and demoed the first version of the last song on the album, Poison Pages. And he was, in that demo, he was singing with his clean voice. And we weren't expecting that.
Greetings, Legion. Welcome to episode 250 of Into the Necrosphere, a milestone episode that demands a milestone guest. And I'm talking this week to the great and powerful Adam Zars, guitarist for the band Tribulation. Their new album, Rosa In Aeternum, just got released by Century Media Records, and we spoke at length about the reasons for and the influences behind the changes and the evolution in their style. We spoke about what the future holds for Tribulation, and we also spoke about a couple of Adam's interests outside of music. It's a fantastic conversation. It's going to be kicking off in just a few minutes, but before we get to that, we have us a premiere on the Sphere. Abraxas Horn is a project headed up by my fellow horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, the inimitable Brandon Legion, host of the Horrorwolf 666 podcast. He has an EP due for release on November the 26th that is called Luminal Darkness. And for the very first time ever, you, the Legion, get to hear the lead single off of that release. This is a song called Beholder. Beholder is the name of the song. That was Abraxas Horn, taken from their brand new upcoming EP, Luminal Darkness, due for release on November the 26th. Fun fact, not only does it feature Brandon Legion of Horrorwolf 666, it also features Mike Hill of Tombs and Scorpion Throne, as well as Matt Prizzo of Sick, Conspiracy X, and Spells of Torment. I've heard the whole thing. I have a pretty good read on the pulse of the Legion, and I have a very strong suspicion that the vast majority of you are going to love the entire EP. So make sure you head over to their Bandcamp, buy yourself some music, and you let Brandon and the gang know who sent you. If you are not yet familiar with the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, I've hinted at them plenty enough in the introduction to this episode of the show. But let me remind you of our schedule. On a Monday, we've got Horrorwolf 666, hosted by Brandon Legion. Yours truly casts hexes and slays poses on Into the Necrosphere every Tuesday. Next week, I'm talking to Aaron Stainthorpe of My Dying Bride and High Parasite. We were also joined by Danny Lambert, who is his bandmate in High Parasite. If you want to find out everything there is to know about that band, and if you want to get the skinny on the latest goings on in the My Dying Bride camp, then make sure you don't miss episode 251. And I'm also going to be going on a tear between now and the end of the year. I've got episodes coming up with Veil Burner, Panzerfaust, a couple of others that I'm going to keep under wraps for now. But rest assured, between now and December the 24th, which is when I will post my final episode for 2024, you are going to be, or you won't be at a loss for good content. On a Wednesday, we've got Sensei Mike Hill giving you another episode of Everything Went Black. On a Thursday, he returns alongside his co-hosts Sheriff Mike Scondado and Professor Jeff Kashid. The unmissable, absolutely essential Necromaniacs is the name of their podcast. They review new and old horror movies. On a Wednesday, just rewinding one day, 24 hours, you can also listen to Iblis Manifestations, hosted by the Middle Eastern marauder Cheyenne of the band Trivax. And on a Thursday and on a Sunday, you've got no less than 2 installments of Soul Nox, a curated journey through the dark, the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric. That is hosted by the sinister minister, Carl Hikara. Later on in the show, my weekly news rant will not be a solo endeavor this week. I'm going to be talking to my good friend Svartalv of Nocturnal Breed and Gehenna, chief lyricist for 1349. Given that it's a milestone show, I thought I would get a special guest on, and he is an absolute legend of legends. We chewed through some of the latest metal news headlines. We rounded up some new singles for Judgment. He also gave me an update on everything musical that he's involved in, and there was a bit of black metal trivia along the way, so make sure you don't move a muscle at the end of the interview segment of the show, because there's lots more to come. Before we get to the main event, I do want to say I started this podcast back in 2019 in my flat in Kingston upon Thames in London, here in the UK. I never thought that it would get more than a couple of listeners every week, and I certainly never thought I'd have the opportunity to speak to all of the icons and the legends that have been on Mean Street Studios over the course of this show's 5 and a bit year existence. All of that, however, pales into insignificance in the face of the friendships that I've made along the way. And so I want to say to every band member who's ever taken an hour out of their day to talk to me, to every member of the Legion who has liked a post, sent me some feedback, dropped me a note to say how much they enjoy the show, I truly appreciate you. The friendships I've made from this show are incredibly valuable to me, and I am going to be doing Into the Necrosphere until I no longer have breath in my body. This episode goes out to all of you. Now sit back and enjoy as I welcome Adam Zars of Tribulation to Into the Necrosphere.
Very professional.
It's super professional. I'm very impressed so far. But as I said, you're a guinea pig. This is my first time actually using it. But welcome officially to Into the Necrosphere and to episode 250 of the podcast. I think the best place to start is to ask you why Tribulation changed their sound and what made you do this to your fans. I'm only kidding, of course. But you know what I find interesting about this record, and I'll let you comment in a second. But you guys are one of the few bands I can recall in recent memory who've taken a real step change in their presentation and in their style and have been almost roundly embraced for it. I don't think I've read a single comment, a single review of anybody saying, man, this is terrible. Why do they not sound like they did on the Horror?
I have.
Oh,
No.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
I've not gotten around to those yet. I mean, you're talking to a black metal band, yeah, black and death metal band. So,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you in a second. Once you've kind of given your thoughts, I'll tell you in a second why I've warmed to this record so much. But yeah, what's the sense that you're getting from fans, from the press, kind of just generally how people are taking this record?
In a very positive way, I would say. I don't know how many people who don't like it, would actually come up to you and, tell me that they that they think it sucks. So I guess that's part of the equation. But no, friends and fans alike seem to embrace it and to also feel like it's still Tribulation, but in a new way, which is, of course, everything you want to hear, I guess. So, in general, it's been super positive. I haven't read that many reviews. I just got a few now today, or I saw it today. I got it a while ago. So I read like a few of them now, and they were very positive about the changes as well. And then, of course, like I said, I've seen some negative reviews as well, or comments even. But that is obviously to be expected for any band and for any release. I think there's always going to be people who don't like it, and that's obviously perfectly fine as long as they're not in the majority, I guess, and that doesn't seem to be the case here. So yeah, very positive response so far.
Do you tend to, typically with a band and with the music that you've done in the past, do you tend to pay attention to things like YouTube comments and social media?
No, not at all. Actually, I've actually tried more to do it now, since, I don't know, I never wanted to engage with comments at all in the past. And we come from a different time, really, where social media wasn't even a thing, and became a thing while Tribulation was a band. So, and we've never been the kind of people to enthusiastically, embrace new technology and so on. But now, I've been using social media for a long time, and YouTube is just, a part of life, I guess. So for this one, I've actually been reading comments and replying to some comments even at times. So this is basically the first time I'm doing that, and it's kind of nice, I guess. I don't mind. I guess I've become used to this reality we're currently in, and watching a lot of YouTube. YouTube is fantastic for so many things. So it's I guess I'm more used to it now than I used to be. And I think in the past we always wanted to be, as bands could be in the past, a bit mysterious and not really wanting to share a lot of our private lives. And I still don't really, but just feels easier nowadays. It's just a new reality that you have to accept that it's there if you want to be in this business at all, I think.
Katie and I have been talking about this quite a lot over the last year, and we actually did a panel at Inferno about it as well. The change in, or the rise of new media in metal, and in this scene in particular, and how much more important and how much more useful a channel podcasting, as an example, has become for bands, particularly in the underground. And you touched on something interesting there. I mean, Tribulation started in 2004, 2005, so you've been around for a hot minute. How have you seen that evolution over the course of the last 2 decades? Do you see podcasting, for example, now being much more important than it was before? How are you experiencing that as somebody who's in a band?
I think I got used to it more outside of music than inside of the industry, I guess. I mean, even back then, not maybe exactly when we started, I can't remember really, but early on, you had things like MySpace, and that was
those days.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, we used that, and it was really helpful and useful back then as well, to find new bands and to get your songs out there. I remember, hearing the Devil's Blood songs, the demo songs early on MySpace. So I guess it's been a part of it for a long time now, but I mean, streaming is really the way people listen to music nowadays, and you kind of think it would. I mean, record sales would how do you say it? That it would come to a point where it can't really go down more, because there are collectors and there are enthusiasts and all that, but it's still going down. so
that's interesting, because
it's changed everything.
I was going to say, I mean, I've had conversations with people about this over the last 2-3 years. For a lot of folks, vinyl in particular is kind of one of the big revenue streams that they can still generate a reasonable amount of return for recorded music as opposed to streaming. Is that something that you have as well?
Yeah, but that's not really. I mean, yeah, we can sell albums, especially on tour in the US. We can sell pretty well, and so on. But no, that's not what it's about, I guess. Even though we're still doing it, we're still gonna do it. We're still record people, but people are not, it seems. I mean, in metal, I guess people still do it, and I'm sure some younger metalheads nowadays probably buy records as well to some extent, but I think most of them are streaming. I was just talking about it earlier now. I've had a few interviews today, and
not as exciting as this one, though.
No, absolutely not. No one's been drinking wine so far. I wish I had some.
I would have offered you some if you were here in person.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good glass of wine.
I have some Iron Maiden wine, but I haven't opened it yet. I'm not sure how good it is. I was talking to my son, actually. He's 15 now, and he's getting into metal now. And what it seems like, what they're doing, him and his friends, instead of impressing your peers with finding some obscure band and getting a hold of a demo or 7-inch and so on, it seems like they're they're keeping track of what they are streaming. They can see, they have this app, I guess, I don't know what it's called, that they can see what they're listening to. So the cool thing is, I guess, to have listened to a band a lot, you know, because they can see everything they're listening to, which is kind of scary as well, I guess.
Well,
but it's a different thing to
But Facebook used to let you do that, because I don't know whether you recall. Remember, Facebook used to have that activity bar on the right-hand bucket of the screen, and it would show you literally everything that your friends are doing. So it would be like, you know, Adam is listening to, like, if you had your Spotify account connected to Facebook, it'd be like, you know, Adam is listening to Roxette, or, you know, Cardi B, or, you know, I know the kind of music you would typically listen to.
Yeah, Roxette. I listen to Roxette.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know, like Roxette and ABBA are two bands that I know so many metalheads that love both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember in 2014, I think, we were on tour with the Behemoth in Poland, only 2 weeks in Poland with Behemoth. And we would travel around with their crew in their bus, and they would only listen to Roxette and ABBA all the time. They knew all the songs. They knew more than we did. So yeah,
well,
that seems to be the case.
If you grew up in South Africa around the time that I grew up, you'd have been in Seventh Heaven, because The Look was one of the biggest songs on the face of the earth. I mean, like, there was a period of time where you couldn't go anywhere for hearing that track. And actually, just another story about, you know, people in metal doing things that are very unmetal. Can you remember that band Scum? That Samoth, Casey Chaos, I think Nocturno Culto was in it as well. That it was like this like sort of crust punk black metal band. They did a one-off show at the Underworld in London, and I remember watching them play. And this woman is standing next to me, and she asks me what I think of the band. I'm like, yeah, they're great, love them. We talk back and forth. It, you know, transpires that she's Samoth's wife. So she asks me, where can we find a great 80s club? I'm like, what do you mean, like 80s metal? No, you know, we want to hear Depeche Mode, Aha, and stuff like that. And the guys want to go dancing afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, sure. I was in my 20s at the time, and, you know, still probably a little more closed-minded when it came to what people should and shouldn't listen to. I was like, what the fuck? Like, Samoth wants to go dancing to Aha?
Exactly.
Yeah,
people could keep their mystery back then, still, I guess.
Yeah.
So you didn't think that, well, you know, you'd still not believe it, but on some level still believe that people were, you know, sleeping in coffins and and all that you can't really do, I guess, nowadays, because of social media, to get back to that.
Yeah. Well, also because of shows like this one. You know, it's, you know, now I have, you know, a couple of weeks ago I had Necro Butcher on, and a couple of people were saying how funny it was watching him as we're having a conversation, walk into his kitchen, make himself a cup of coffee, and sit back down and talk. And it's like, you know, again, Necro Butcher, the first couple of interviews I remember seeing of him was, you know, the one where he's drunk at, I think it was at Wacken. And he's yelling and shouting at the guy from Banger TV. You know, it's a very different cat to the guy I'm sitting talking to.
Yeah, of course. And I remember there was this in the 90s. I think it was Cradle of Filth who had this thing in Kerrang maybe or something. And they were in the kitchen, like cooking and making a cup of coffee maybe in their like makeup. And that was just, you can't do that. But obviously people do that.
Yeah.
People cook, people eat, people drink coffee. Yeah.
Bizarrely enough, that's how I got over my fear of public speaking. A friend of mine told me once, like, if you if you find that you feel intimidated by a large audience of people, especially in my day job, in my corporate job, if you feel you're intimidated by a group of senior people, leaders and stuff like that, just remember they have to take a shit the same as you.
Yeah,
That was life changing for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
We're all human.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you a question. We were talking about the response to the new record. When you guys were in the studio and you're putting this together, and there's clearly the degree of awareness that you're doing something that's quite different and that is quite a step forward for the band. Was there any nervousness amongst the ranks, with you, others in the band, like a collective sense of angst about how people were going to take this music? Like, would people be invested in and allowing you to have the freedom to do a record like this?
I'd say before and after. When we were starting to write the songs, when we didn't have a direction, when we didn't know, we knew we wanted to do something. We knew we couldn't repeat the sound that we had on the previous 3 albums. It's not the same sound, but it's very similar. So we knew we had to do something, and coming up with new music at that point was horrible, I'd say.
Whereabouts was this?
We recorded it in March, April, I think. So probably August to February.
Gotcha.
Something like that. And then we didn't know what we were gonna do, and then we had a few songs and they were sounding good, we thought, but it was a bit different, but it's more or less same old, I guess. And then Johannes, the singer, wrote and demoed the first version of the last song on the album, Poison Pages. And he was in that demo, he was singing with his clean voice, and we weren't expecting that, so we didn't really know what to do with that information, I guess, for a while. But I think we all, we liked the song and we liked how he was singing. We saw the potential in it, I guess. And after a while, of course, we all agreed that this was something we could do. And from then to going into the studio, because we were all demoing, at home, and then we would regularly meet up to work on each song. So that was difficult. Not only because of pressure from the outside, but you want to write a good song for yourself as well. But I mean that can be horrible, I think. But then in the studio, we all liked what we were doing. We at one point late in the recording, I think we even said, we should have done more of this. The more like songs like Murder in Red and Hungry Waters. So not a lot of anxiety about the new direction in the studio, but after that, when we'd finished everything and we got the master and everything, I mean, from that point until a couple of weeks ago, really, you have the album, but you're just at home and knowing that we've done this, that was a bit intimidating, I think.
That
time
first
period.
single, you're tossing the hand grenade over the wall and you're just putting your fingers in your ears.
Yeah.
Let's see what comes back
Exactly.
from this one.
Yeah, and that was a safe choice. We went with Saturn Coming Down, and it's got at first it sounds just like regular old Tribulation, and then the chorus comes and it's oh my god, they're singing. But we knew we had Hungry Waters coming up. We knew we had Murder in Red coming up as a single as well. So I guess we kind of took people by the hand and led them into it, I guess. But it seems to have been working. So, but it's always nerve-wracking to write music. I think it's very difficult, and it's for me at least, and it's it's a horrible experience to write music. I would say.
Why do you find it difficult?
I don't know. It has to be good. It has to be something fresh, and I think I make things more difficult than they have to be many times, because we come from this background that we have. We come from extreme metal and part of extreme metal, I guess, where with an ethos that anything can happen in a song. A song doesn't have to be like verse, chorus, solo, chorus, and that's it. It can be anything. And I mean, if you look at an album like our second album, The Formulas of Death, that's very much like that. You have an opening riff, and then you have no idea what's going to happen. Anything can happen, because as long as it fits, as long as it's good, it can be in the song. So you just start from one point and go wherever, really. And I still think like that when I write music nowadays as well, even though it's a lot more structured. It ends up a lot more structured these days, but I still have that initial reaction, initial feeling that, okay, I have this intro riff, and what am I doing now? I have no idea. Should I have a solo here? Should I have an instrumental section that's 5 minutes long, or maybe I should have a verse, And I think Joseph helped me some, the other guitar player, he helped me some with that on this album, because he comes from another direction. He's been writing, pop and rock songs and just regular heavy metal bangers for a long time. And so he was like, what are you doing? why are you complicating things? So I think we met in a good way there. I influenced him some from where I'm coming from, and he helped me get over that. But it's still the case that, anything can potentially happen in a song, and I still carry that, I guess. And then you can hear that I think, at least on the songs I wrote on the album, Murder in Red, Saturn Coming Down, and Drink the Love of God. They're all very different, and I think that's why. I mean, anything can't really happen. It has to be in the Tribulation sound, I guess. But you can put a lot into that.
I was just about to say, a lot of room. You've broadened the palette of what the Tribulation sound should be by a pretty substantial margin for this record as well.
Absolutely. So it's very difficult. I think it's very difficult. And I rarely write songs that don't end up on the albums. That's another thing.
To what extent do songs get refined and fine-tuned when you guys get together as a band, when you collaborate? Because it was interesting that you mentioned that before. I've spoken to a lot of people about this recently, and I feel like with a lot of bands now in modern times, one of the things that's lost is that magic that happens when a band is together in the studio or in the rehearsal space, and they're just jamming on an idea, and that idea becomes, kind of mutated and evolved into the vision of everybody in the band, rather than it just being one person's ideas recorded and done. I think if everybody is invested in it, then that investment, that emotional investment that they have in the songs, it really shines through on the end product.
I agree, and we do that a lot. We Joseph was not prepared for how we work when he came into the band. It takes a lot of time, and each and every song, minute details are we go through everything, and we put a lot of effort into that, and not the way, I guess, that we used to do it in the past. I was very skeptical of what you were talking about now, with just demoing stuff and everything's finished. So I was always, up until like the Children of the Night, I always brought my ideas and showed it to the other guys, and then we would play, and then we would have like a cassette or something to record it on, and you'd listen and you'd do something during the recording that's like an accident, or you'd play a solo just improvising, and there's always something that you can keep, or little accidents here and there that are good. So yeah, you do lose a lot of that if you don't if you just make the demo and that's it. Absolutely. And yeah, like I said, we work a lot on it, on every song. Absolutely.
I also feel like that spontaneity is something that people love so much in the live setting. And if we think about, you go back to the band, the albums that people really loved and that they grew up loving. I mean, almost all of us will talk about our experience of hearing a record where very clearly there were mistakes made in the studio that were left in the recording, and that's part of the charm. It's part of why you love it so much. I think when you remove the spontaneity, you remove some of the emotion and some of the feel of the record, and it kind of makes the music feel a bit sterile. And I think, if I happen to think a lot of music that comes out now is very good. I think we're very spoiled for choice when it comes to good records that are coming out. But I can see the argument when people go, it's too clinical, it's too sterile. I think it's because people have sort of sacrificed spontaneity at the altar of perfection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you can have perfection nowadays, I guess. No, yeah, I agree. You could just think of I when you were talking now, I was thinking of like the 80s Maiden records that they made in like no time. And it sounds like they've been, working on like an album like Power Slave or something. Sounds like they've been working on it forever, but they didn't, and they didn't have to. And there's a lot of, I think it adds to it. You can over analyze and overwork a song as well. I'm pretty sure. And like I said, we kind of do that to some extent, but I think we manage to do it in a way where we're not afraid to leave some dirt in there, I guess. Not when it comes to tuning. I'm quite particular about that, but
yeah.
But other than that, yeah, mistakes are precious sometimes as well.
I'm just taking a gander now at Wikipedia, and obviously Wikipedia you have to take with a grain of salt. But just with regards to Power Slave, It says here, following the conclusion of their highly successful World Peace Tour in December 1983, Iron Maiden headlined large venues and arenas in the US for the first time in their career. The band took 3 weeks off in January 1984, where they rehearsed for 6 weeks. As with Power Slave's predecessor, this was where most of the album's writing took place. And it's such a sprawling record. I'd never actually looked into the background to it. It's a very big, very grandiose album. I mean, I won't pretend to be the biggest fan of Iron Maiden, but there are some incredible
and they were
songs
partying
on Power Slave.
Yeah, and they were partying, of course, during this time. It's not like they just rehearsed and wrote. I guess I read whatever his name is, the guy who recorded a lot of the new albums. I read his diary from The Final Frontier, I think, which is a great read. You can just Google his name, I think, and maybe diary, and you'll find it. Whatever his name is. And it was the same thing there. They were just coming in with a hangover or not showing up, and just things you'd not really do. I guess I guess they can afford it though. When you're paying for a studio, I was about to say.
I was going to ask. I mean, how disciplined are you guys when it comes to studio work? I don't believe I've read any big scandals about the Tribulation boys.
Oh, we keep it in the family, I guess.
What happens in the studio stays in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, we of course party as well. Too much sometimes, but I guess there are some funny videos of us recording like a fairly difficult solo or something, and barely being able to sit up. There's obviously some of that going on as well. But it works still. So as long as it works,
100%.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Guns N' Roses wrote Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 on God knows how much booze and, every form of depravity and hedonism under the sun. And that's a pretty tight record, all things considered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or two tight records, I should say.
Exactly.
Person you were referring to earlier is Kevin Shirley.
Yes.
He's a fellow countryman of mine. I didn't even realize it. He was born in South Africa, Johannesburg, in South Africa.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. I live in the UK now, but I'll always be a South African, always be a Springbok rugby supporter. Now, let me ask you. You kind of touched on the writing process for Rosa In Aeternum. When did you guys kind of really get a sense of what direction the album was taking? Because it sounds like there were songs coming in. There wasn't really any kind of plan in advance to put together something like the end result. But the end result is to me a very slick record. I know it's not necessarily conceptual, but it's very slick in the sense that there's a great amount of continuity, and it sounds to me like you've paid an extraordinary amount of attention to the sequencing of the album, because it's perfectly sequenced. One of the things that I love, for example, is you have this incredible atmosphere setting, or this mood setting, almost intro song in the Unrelenting Choir, and then you have a bit of a throwback to it again on Murder in Red. It's kind of it's got this 80s stalker movie kind of vibe to it at the beginning of the track, and then some of the heavier stuff comes in. But it is a very cohesive record for one that wasn't kind of blueprinted out and thought about in advance.
Yeah, we've never done that. We've never planned anything ever, I'd say, almost. The first thing I think was when I wrote Saturn Coming Down, and that intro riff, and it's not the same sound as it is on the album, but I accidentally, more or less, I guess, I can't even remember how I found that sound on the guitar, kind of almost like a surf guitar kind of tone to it, and very lo-fi almost, and really loud and screaming at the same time. but when I did that, that probably set the first tone for the album, I think. And then when we decided to go with the clean vocals and started realizing what we could do with that, and I can't remember if I said this in this interview actually, but Joseph sent me some ideas that would eventually end up being Hungry Waters. And this was before we knew that we were gonna have clean vocals, and I loved what I was hearing. I thought it was probably the best thing so far. But I couldn't really see how we could make it work with, the vocals and everything. So when we all realized, or when we all accepted that we would go for the clean vocals, that opened up so much. And then we realized that we could have a song like Hungry Waters, and we could have a song like Murder in Red. So it was coming. We worked on the songs like simultaneously, almost after a while. We didn't really finish anything. So it was a gradual process for every song. So I think maybe because we were working on them simultaneously for a long time, I think that's maybe why it sounds cohesive still, even though there are a lot of different styles almost on the album. And we worked with that on in the studio as well, with the sound, finding the right sound for everything on like each track almost. They spent a lot of times with the drums, with cymbals, with snares and all that I'm not really involved with that much, I guess. But they were going at it, and we had a lot of different amplifiers and pedals and everything. And of course, the producer Tom Delgedi was a part of all of this, but also our studio technician Ola Ersfjord. He was he had a big part to play in all this, and we kept in contact with Tom throughout the entire recording. He wasn't there. He was there like a week before we entered the studio, and he was there for the last week. But we kept in contact, and we kept sending him stuff all along. So we really spent a lot of time finding the right guitar, the right amp, the right pedal, the right snare, I guess, for all of the songs, and for different sections of songs even. I mean, almost in a way that it gets almost like ridiculous, but I don't think it was. I think it actually helped. I think it actually enhanced whatever we were doing, especially that guitar sound that I was talking about at the beginning of Saturn Coming Down, because that kind of built that sound from that I made the demo with, kind of built that song. I made the riffs because I have that sound. And I used the same thing for the demo for Murder in Red, and I used the same for Drink the Love of God. I wanted it to be less of a Marshall Gibson kind of regular kind of sound. We used Marshalls and Gibsons as well, I guess, but I was playing a Telecaster for a lot of it, and I used 2 twin reverb amps, really super loud for a lot of those parts, and we had a Vox amp as well, and yeah, we were playing around a lot, and I think managed eventually. I can't even remember how many times I re-recorded that intro for Saturn Coming Down until we found the right sound, and it can change so much. It sounds silly, but it can change so much between just two guitars, depending on what kind of humbuckers or whatever you have. So it was important, I guess, because of because of the sound, because we wanted it to sound a certain way. Yeah.
What's your out of interest? What's your guitar of choice at the moment?
At the moment, I can't even get it. I have it right here.
Keep it close by just in case thieves come to rob the house. It's like, hey guys, take whatever you want. Just don't be touching that guitar.
Don't touch my Korean. No, yeah, my Korean Tokai Explorer. This is fantastic. I got it from. I used to have a Japanese guitar called a Greco Les Paul from '81, and I was out of cash at some point and had to pay the rent, so I sold it to our old drummer Jacob, who played on the Formulas of Death and the Chill on the Night, and he had bought this one like a couple of years ago, and I played it when I was going to Stockholm rehearsing with him and some other guys in another band called Tyrann, and I just fell in love with it. And then for my birthday, he gave it to me. So
that's awfully nice of him.
Yeah, that's awfully nice of him. Him and a lot of other friends, actually. They all helped out to pay him. But that was super duper nice, and it's absolutely my favorite guitar at the moment.
Is that what?
And I couldn't bring it to the.
Well?
Yeah, I was about to. We got a great deal with Enki. This they make like guitar cases, flight cases, and stuff. But for whatever reason, my case never showed up before the tour we were just on, and it has to be wider than the regular ones because of the shape on this one. So I couldn't bring it on on the tour with Opeth we just did, unfortunately. So I just played an Epiphone on that one, but that's also good.
It's one of those things where that might potentially be a godsend, though, because imagine how you would have felt if something had gone wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Probably would have. I probably should be grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things about this album that I find particularly interesting is a lot of my metal brethren, their very limited frame of reference when it comes to music, I think, comes to the fore when I read some of the reviews. Like every single person is like, "Oh, Sisters of Mercy." Some people reach for Nick Cave and say, I hear a lot of stuff here that's not, but I don't hear a lot of Sisters of Mercy. Maybe some, but I hear, like, if I were to pinpoint some things, and I'm curious to get your take on how accurate I am. On Tainted Skies, I hear the Cult for sure, like definitely, mid career, the Cult. Saturn Coming Down, I can hear a whiff of Moonspell. One band that is not very spoken of nowadays, because I don't actually even think they exist. If they do exist, they're not as big as they used to be, but they're a Swedish band, Madrugada.
What's the name?
Madrugada.
Madrugada. I don't know that.
Yeah. They did a record called The Nightly Disease, and actually listening to Rosa In Aeternum, that would be, if they did still exist, what a fucking lineup that would be for a tour, because it's similarly like very moody, kind of gothy kind of music, but it has that quite theatrical feel. I think there's a almost cinematic feel to what you guys are doing with this record. And of course, you hear Nick Cave, but I also hear The Cure on Poison Pages. We were touching on your musical palette, but when you think about the stuff that you listen to, things that inspire you and that inspire you as a musician, just period, what are some of the things that you spend a lot of time playing in your private life?
It's funny that you say Moonspell. I've seen Moonspell all over the place in comments and stuff. I've never listened to Moonspell.
Really?
So
That's some
no.
bangers,
So that's
man. Some absolute bangers.
Well, I've been thinking maybe I should.
Yeah.
A lot of people think I'm listening to
Mid-career
them.
Moonspell,
Yeah.
I think is very underappreciated. They've got a record called Of Darkness and Hope. I would absolutely recommend you check that out. The Butterfly Effects, I think, is very good. The one that everyone hated when it came out, but people have grown relatively fond of it, is a record called Sin. It was their third record. Strongly
All right.
suggest you check that out too.
I will, and I will check Madrugada out. So
Madrugada, I think you're going to love.
yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, what am I listening to? I'm listening to a lot of soundtracks at the moment. At the moment, I'm always doing that, I guess. But and you can hear that in the album. There's
Yes.
a lot of soundtracks from old 60s, or maybe mostly 70s and 80s horror, Euro horror, mostly Italian. That's
I was going to say, Drink
Yeah.
the Love of God and Time and the Vivid One is to me where I hear that most clearly, but you get it across the whole entire record.
yeah. Murder in Red is very much inspired by a lot of that music. You can hear it in Hungry Waters as well. Joseph wrote that, but still, well, I don't know what I'm listening to. Mostly that kind of stuff, and like old French, whatever music. I don't know what you call it even. Do I have a
When
name?
you say old, how old are you? How old do you mean?
I mean, Edith Piaf and everything up to like the 60s, I guess. Anything up to
Gotcha.
like the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like so like almost like World War II era music.
Yeah, exactly. And later. But a lot of 60s stuff in general, I guess. Nancy Sinatra, stuff like that. Other than that, I mean, I listen to the regular stuff I always listen to, I guess.
I was about to say,
Heavy metal.
you're probably gonna get this question a lot. If you really want to, throw a curveball at somebody, tell them that one of the records that really inspired me when writing this one is the most recent Dying Fetus album.
Exactly.
I mean, I've been listening to Pantera, Dying Fetus, the usual. That's why the album sounds like it does.
Yeah. I've been listening to a lot to not the latest, but the one before that from Despel Omega. What is it called? Can't even remember now. It's very good. I didn't like the latest one actually as much.
I'll tell you in a second what the previous one is called. The Furnaces of Polynesia.
Polynesia. Yeah, exactly.
Which is
That's a very good album.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I agree.
extremely. I love it. I love the sound. I mean, I've liked the band for a long time. I like the C Monumentum album, and I got all of the albums after that as well. But they're, different. They're so very, very out there, technical.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to find something to grab a hold of, I guess, while listening to them. But that album, they kind of return to something a little bit more sane, I guess, or whatever. So I've been listening to a lot to that actually. And
the Deathspell Omega album that really turned me onto that band. I remember when C Monumentum came out, as well as the next record. I liked them both, but it was Paracletus that to me was that was like the real hook. I was just addicted
out of
to
those
that band after that record.
Yeah, out of those post C Monumentum records, that's my favorite one as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I listen to black metal demos from the 90s. I listen to Saxon, I listen to Iron Maiden, I listen to Scorpions, Priest, whatever. Swedish heavy metal.
I was hoping you were going to say Wasp. I've
Wasp as well. Not as much though.
There's probably, out of every band I've had on this podcast this year, and I mean, I do on average about 40 to 45 episodes a year, I'd say at least 80% of bands have brought up, for a period of time, it was a kind of a running joke, because almost everyone I would talk to would, like, without us talking about it beforehand, without it just completely spontaneous, yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Wasp. That's what I grew up listening to. I was as well. So it's very easy to go down that train of conversation.
Yeah. I never got into Wasp as much as I think I saw them as a glam band, I guess, when I was a teenager, and I wanted, pure heavy metal or pure black metal or whatever. I like them, and I like them more now, I think. But I never, some of those bands you listen to when you were teenagers, they stick to you, I guess. But now I have to revisit a lot of things, because my son is getting into heavy metal now, and I have to I have to show him some good stuff, I guess.
How does he feel about his dad's band?
I think he likes it. I'm not sure. But I think he does. I can hear him play some Tribulation stuff on guitar sometimes. So at least he knows the songs, and he's been around. I mean, he's been around us always. So I guess it's difficult to not know some of the songs. But I think he appreciates it. He's got good taste. He likes the good black metal, the good heavy metal. He likes Pantera. I don't like them. But
you don't like Pantera?
No, I don't like Pantera. I don't like Metallica. He loves both. I listen a lot to Megadeth actually nowadays. Getting back to Megadeth.
Megadeth, to me, reached absolute perfection with Rust in Peace, but they never made a record that came anywhere close.
No, I agree.
Not after that, not before that. That was just, it's like Painkiller to me. Painkiller is lightning in a bottle. Judas Priest never made a record like that prior or after that, and it was kind of the same with Megadeth for me.
Yeah, I agree with Megadeth, at least. I like Peace Sells as well. It's an amazing album. I love the early Priest stuff. I love the 80s Priest stuff as well, Turbo. But Painkiller is absolutely one of the better ones. I do like what's it called? I was about to say Nostradamus. That big double LP they made, double album even maybe. I listened a lot to that when it came out for some reason. Haven't listened to it in a while though. Maybe I would think differently now, but I loved it when it came out. Everyone hated it, so I guess that made it all more fun as well.
That encouraged you. I'll tell you what is an absolute banger of a song. The record that they put out in 2005, Angel of Retribution. The opening track on that record, Judas Rising. Oh my God! I mean that. Yeah,
it's a very good song.
Heavy metal perfection.
Absolutely, I agree. Very good. I mean, they have good. They still have good songs, but Painkiller is probably the last very, very solid album from them.
We've been touching on a lot of bands that are very theatrical, and obviously you've mentioned horror and cinema being an influence on Tribulation. I can absolutely visualize, as I'm listening to this new music, a much more theatrical live show for you guys. And I don't mean like King Diamond level of theatrics, but a step above using lighting. I mean, I know you guys do the face paint and the lighting and stuff, and you use it very effectively now, but do you see, or would you like at some point, because I know it's also budget dependent, but would you like for there to be a step up in the presentation and in the production of the band's live show, particularly with this new direction that you've gone into?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have to we're gonna have to think about that now. Actually, we have a big show in Stockholm in April, where we can actually try some things out. And we have 2 carpenters in the band, so they can help build stuff. I guess I can design it, and they can build it. So yeah, we're gonna try to step up. That's for sure. Then you have to transport stuff as well. But yeah, we've been talking about it. We've been talking about it a lot. And you can make that work on like when you have to fly into a show as well. Yeah, we'll see how it works out. I talked some to Pelle in Botane. He's what do you say in English? He's a welder. Do you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's doing that kinds of stuff now, and he's built this very convenient traveling stage for them now, and it's very effective. So, yeah, we're gonna have to step that up. That's for sure.
That would be a pretty good racket to get into if you like. If he's been able to design something that is easily transportable and that's affordable, because again, it's an interesting theme that's come out of conversations recently. There seems to definitely be I don't know if the right word is demand, but there definitely seems to be a push from bands to do things that are more visually spectacular and visually appealing. Like, I feel like when you reach a certain level, just being on stage in your jeans isn't necessarily enough anymore.
No, it's true. I mean, you can take a band like, I don't know, Creator maybe, who used to just have jeans and not much more. And nowadays there's a lot more going on, and you can see it with Bimman and Marth as well. They're doing their whole Viking dragon thing, and it's very effective, obviously. They're huge right now. So, and Behemoth, as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of bands that I don't even know about.
Well, the greatest of all the live bands, Rammstein.
Yeah, exactly. No one can compete with that, I guess.
Did you see that time-lapse video of them building their stage on their latest tour?
No, maybe I've seen one. Yeah, maybe that's the one.
Yeah, it's like a 5-day build just to get the stage erected. I think it's something insane. Like, and I speak under correction on this, but I think it's something crazy. Like 400 people that work on it.
Yeah, exactly. Oscar, our drummer, used to tour with them in his previous band, Zars, and that was a while ago. But even back then, they had like 300 plus people working and like 60 trucks and I don't know how many tour buses for their crew. They didn't go in the tour bus. I guess they had like a helicopter or something. And like, I'm sure they're even bigger now. So yeah.
I wonder how much money they reinvest back into their show. Because, like I'm a businessman by day. So when I look at that, their production must cost them an absolute arm and a leg. And it's not as though, I mean, their tickets are expensive, but they're not Oasis expensive, or something. Again, like Oasis is probably, from a business proposition, it's the greatest thing ever. You're going to get a bunch of idiots that are going to go and watch them thousands of times over. 2 fucking, cardigan-wearing weasels that are going to stand on stage mumbling through about 10 songs and then they're going to leave. There's no production. There's nothing special about it. But you're paying 10x what you'd pay for a Rammstein ticket. If you go see Rammstein, you're going to have the experience of a lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's right. Good for them. Good for them.
I'm about to say, if it works, it works.
Yeah, exactly. But you want, I mean, we've always liked bands. Like, I grew up with Kiss. I grew up with Iron Maiden. That's always been the plan, to make it bigger and to make it a show. That's always, from the first demo, that's what we've wanted to do, and we're gonna try to do that in slightly bigger scale. Right now we can't afford like a truck or anything at the moment, but hopefully soon.
So how did you guys just came back from the States? I know you did a show on Halloween at the Warfield in San Francisco. Like how did the audience take to this new material?
Very well, very well. Better than I expected. I don't know what I was expecting though. I mean, we've never played with Opeth before. We've never played with that kind of audience, I guess, really. But that worked. That worked really well. We had like spontaneous applause every night, and we sold a lot of merch, and yeah, it went a lot better than I was expecting. And the new songs seem to go down super well. I'm very happy about that tour. The Opeth guys are fantastic to tour with. Their entire crew was awesome. Overall, it was just a pleasure, really, to do it, and to have new people who've never heard us before absolutely loving it was a pleasure every night that happened. So it worked really well.
I have to imagine that Opeth's audience, almost by design, have to be quite open-minded to be into their music.
Right.
If you could, I mean, you guys are kind of in this interesting space where there are so many different types of bands that I think you could quite comfortably go out and play with, and especially with the new material. You could open, I would imagine, you could open for Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, and I think the audience would respond incredibly well to you. Is there a dream band outside of the metal paradigm that you would love to play with, that you think realistically that audience is going to warm to Tribulation's music?
Well, Nick Cave would be cool, like you said. I've always wanted to play with Danzig. I mean, it's kind of metal, I guess, but it's the one we always...
the greatest metal.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
But yeah, still, I think that would be awesome. And you know, a band like Sisters of Mercy would also be cool. Fields of the Nephilim. Yeah, can't really think of. I haven't thought about that before. Non-metal bands to tour with. Yeah,
I can see you guys doing really well with Chelsea Wolf's crowd.
Yeah,
with,
for sure.
You know, Emma Ruth Rundle, with Queens of the Stone Age, even perhaps.
Yeah. We're in a good place for that. We've we've opened for Ghost a few times, and that's quite different, you know. But that's always worked as well. But now we're in an even better place to be doing something like that. It would be, it's gonna be fun to see what we do in like the coming 2 or 3 years before the next album.
I'm going to wrap up with one final but incredibly difficult question. As you had mentioned horror movies previously, without thinking, top 3 favorite horror movies of all time.
Nosferatu, let's say the one from 79 then.
Are you looking forward to that Nosferatu remake that's coming out?
I don't know.
The trailer looks good, I think.
Yeah, it does. I am looking for it. I mean, if I had one director that I would like pick to do it, it would be him. What is his name? Robert Eggers.
Yeah.
So, but I'm a bit terrified of it as well. Both of the movies have been so impactful on me and my, you know, creativity and whatever. So yeah, but I am looking forward to it. But it's not opening in Sweden until January 3rd, which is a shame. I was planning on going to Stockholm on the 25th to see it, but apparently they're not screening it.
Oh, so I just double-checked now. That's actually the same year in the UK as well. It only opens on January 3rd.
Ah, maybe they changed it then. Okay.
Possibly.
Well, yeah, I am looking forward to it. Absolutely. So Nosferatu, I would say Zombie 2 by Lucio Fulci. Always go back to that one. And Suspiria. Let's say Suspiria. Dario Argento.
Excellent
Off the
choices.
top of they've probably been the three that have been the most impactful on me, at least.
Yeah. Rule
And
of
off the
thumb
top
for
of
me
my
is
head.
always, if anyone asks you, like, what's your favorite XYZ or top 5 this, it's the ones that pop into your head first.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that clearly made the biggest impact on you.
Yeah.
I mentioned at the start of the conversation, I was going to tell you why this album works so well. There's a theory I have that you can hear when a band are absolutely in their element. Paradise Lost is a band that come to mind for me with that, where that really shines through. You can hear, even though they did something totally different from Shades of God to Icon to Draconian Times, in every instance you could hear they were fully in their element. That's why those records appeal so much. And I said this when I first heard Saturn Coming Down off the new Tribulation record. I was like, you can just hear this band is just absolutely loving every second of what they're doing. And that's why this is landing so well, why this is so effective. So congratulations, man. This is such a good record, and I think it's going to land so well with so many people. And, you know, I speak to a lot of dyed-in-the-wool, you know, necro, true cult dudes, and they all love it as well. And that, you know, whenever a record can be that different and it can cross over to a different, you know, to a audience that might otherwise have gone, this isn't for me, this isn't my tempo, then you know you're onto something special.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we were having such a good time in the studio. After that dread of writing it, actually recording it was super duper fun. Just making music that we like and that we want to hear and that what we want to make, I guess. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
To the reaping
Reaping Song by Tribulation off their brilliant new album Sub Rosa In Aeternum. That album is already starting to show up on some best of lists for 2024, and with good reason. It is perhaps a little easier on the ear than much of what you'll hear on Into the Necrosphere, but if you go into it with an open mind, I have the feeling that the vast majority of you will really enjoy it. The record is available on Century Media Records. I will post a link to their Bandcamp in the description to the podcast, as always. So head over there, buy yourself some music, let them know who sent you. I don't get a cut of the money if you do buy anything off of Bandcamp, just so we're clear. But when you make your voices heard, that's how I managed to snag some of the bigger names that I've had on the podcast. Also, big thank you to Katie Irizarry from the growing empire that is Suspiria PR for getting that conversation set up. She has done so much to help grow and expand this podcast, and I am truly grateful to her, not only for the partnership but for the friendship as well. To get your appetites wet for the news rant, I want to play you a track by the new, or off the new Scour record, Gold. It was announced actually a couple of hours ago at the time of me recording this, hence why Svartalv and I aren't discussing it in the news rant. Scour, in case you don't know, features Phil Anselmo of that little-known Texas formation Pantera. I've been a big fan of this band, and I have sung their praises for about as long as this podcast has been going. This new single, I think, is going to be one that many of you are going to absolutely love. And so for your listening pleasure, this is Scour with Infusorium. Infusorium by Scour is the track you just heard. It's taken from their upcoming album Gold, due for release on February the 21st through Nuclear Blast Records. Last week when I did the Q&A on the News Rant, I did mention Phil Anselmo as one of the guests that I would most love to have on the show. So who knows? Maybe 2025 is the year that Philip H. Anselmo appears on Into the Necrosphere for the very first time. Either way, I love Scour. I liked all their EPs, all their previous releases, and I suggest that if you haven't checked them out yet, you change that immediately. Before we segue, or I should say, as we segue into the next part of the show, I have a little something I need to get off my chest. If you prefer your black metal with a bowl of man tears and a side of wallowing, then it's time to hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
No, I was just, sometimes when it comes to politics or, those bigger themes, I might say things that people don't like, but apart from that, I think we're good.
I don't think there's anything you can say politically nowadays that people are that everyone's gonna like. Everyone's
I don't strive to either.
No, the thing is, everyone is so divided about it, and even when I got a question the other day on the News Rant about, what I thought about the U.S. election, I try to be as pragmatic about it as possible, but I know for an absolute fact there would be people that listened to that and went, "Oh, I fucking can't believe he said that." It's just how it is, unfortunately. You have to speak your mind, and you have to hope that the majority of the people that listen to you are open-minded enough to not freak out about something that you say that they disagree with. But you still have to be able to express yourself. But let me express something to you. Firstly, thank you very much for doing this. I couldn't have wished for a better guest to celebrate episode 250 with.
Thank you.
You guys, so the Gehenna episode this year has been my best performing episode, and I know I messaged you the numbers the other day, and I showed you how many people listened and how many people watched, but I still get comments about that all the time, man. I have to tell you, and I mean this with this is a very pleasant surprise for me because I'm a big fan of the band, but I was almost taken aback by how much love there still is for Gehenna, and I get the impression from having spoken to you that you feel the same way.
Yeah, me and the other guys in the band as well. It's I think it kind of just jumped us a little bit. We knew there would be some kind of response to it, but not like that. And it's, as you say, it's ongoing, and it's been a lot of feedback, and I think it's very good especially for Sunrub and for the old guys to kind of see that there's people that really, cherish those old albums and the band and the whole thing. I think they kind of got, I don't know. I don't think they kind of look at it like that. And I haven't been thinking about it for 30 years. And we just, all the back catalog just came out on Darkness Shall Rise. And we blew the computer thing. The whole shop broke down that first night, and that's a damn good sign. Mm-hmm. So it's just been a whole lot of love coming for that stuff, and it's kind of nice to see that it's not completely forgotten, and just fall between the chairs.
It most definitely isn't. And something that's interesting to me as well is people know you and paid attention to every single individual member of the band as well. Like I can't count how many people sent messages specifically to say, "Oh, I can't believe that you managed to speak to Sarkana. I loved her." Yeah. People were really psyched about seeing you, talk about Gehenna specifically, because obviously most of the time we've talked about a bunch of other stuff, but everyone seemed to. Like in the old days, the characters in the band really resonated with people. That seems to be the case here as well. Now, here's my question for you by way of follow-up. Did getting the three of you together on the in that conversation, did it stir up some nostalgia? Did it stir up at least the thought that, hey, maybe we could do something like this, or maybe we could do something together in the future? And we can surprise Jackie and be at Inferno Festival next year.
No, yes, of course it did. It did for all of us. It stirred up much more emotions and old feelings than I think we expected at all. And yes, of course, that pushes us in thinking a bit forwardly about the whole thing. Even though I can't really, kind of deep dive into that thing, but
Yeah, of course.
we have been in constant contact since then, and there's been a focus on all the reissues and all that stuff up until now. And I don't know, it ignited some kind of flame. I'm writing some words about things. I'm playing a little. The other people are. We're in contact back and forth. It's a giant kind of machinery to kind of get started if we're going to do anything. And several labels and several ideas. And as you said, this band kind of was put together by 5 characters, and we are very 5 characters. So we think alike, but we also have our own ideas about things. So there is this mishmash of things that have to be put down. But I think I can say that flame that was kind of lit back then, that was an important kind of crossroads for all of us. And thanks to you.
Well, that makes me exceptionally happy to hear. I love the conversation, and as I said to you, the Legion clearly enjoyed it very much as well. Let me ask you this quite pointed question. For you to consider doing anything as Gehenna or with Gehenna again, would it need to be all 5 members from, the first and second spell era coming together for it to be worthwhile for you? Would you consider it if it were, for example, just you, Dolgar, and Sarkana? Like what's your thoughts around that? And appreciate, obviously, if you can't expand on that whilst we're recording.
No, I can, because that's kind of like an honest kind of thing, Gehenna up until now, the last 25 years, Sunrad has been doing his thing, presenting Gehenna's newer material the way he wanted, and not tapping into the old stuff because he didn't want to. It's very hard, or more or less important, to get that feeling, that we had back then. So he just said, okay, I'm just going to do this new stuff. So that's kind of like Gehenna Mac 2, and the first stuff was Mac 1. And there is like Mac 3, Mac 4, Mac 5s that we have kind of like, we're not stupid. So we've been talking about, what if this and what if that. And of course, for me, the 100% kind of thing that I would jump in it with both feet is if it's all 5 of us. That would just create an insane feeling. But shit can happen, and I think we can work it out in all kind of different, ways. The kind of like the centerpiece there is Sunrub. It's been like kind of his thing, him and Dolgar, but Sunrub has been doing it while Dolgar didn't, and stuff like that. So Sunrub is essential to it, to keep the thing. But I think for all of us, it's important to try, if we're going to deliver like that, to deliver full force, all of us, if possible, and as best as we can do, according to the dreams we had back then, not according to the dreams that is out there now. But there won't be, ponytails and high sweaters and turtlenecks and glasses on stage.
Well, the Inferno lineup for next year is more or less confirmed now, but they've only just started announcing Beyond the Gates, so there's still an opportunity to get something agreed to and shock the world. I'm gonna try and make it to Beyond the Gates as well. By the way, I'm definitely coming to Inferno, but I'm for sure going to try and make it to Beyond the Gates also.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see it. Both of them.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, let's listen to some music. I have ragged on and on about how much I hate this band's name, probably for as long as this band's been in existence. But anyway, Harakiri for the Sky present Heal Me single and music video. Harakiri for the Sky are unveiling an Oliver Connick produced official video for Heal Me, the newest single of their next full-length offering, Scorched Earth. The latter comes out on January the 24th, 2025, via AOP Records. The song features a guest performance by Tim Yatras of Austere. I've never paid an extraordinary amount of attention to their music, partly because I just like the name of the band so much, which is probably very close-minded of me. But
I'm just the same way. I kind of put it in with like Atari Teenage Riot or something like that, or
yeah,
Alien Ant Farm, all those kind of three-word names.
Atari
And
Teenage Riot is actually the one that came to mind when I saw that the first time as well.
yeah, so it's
It's
just like, well, this is not interesting. I never paid any attention to it at all.
yeah,
But I have an
but
expectation of what it's going to be like when you press play. But let's see.
they've been around for a long time though, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 albums. And as I
Oh,
said, I mean, I know my understanding is they're relatively popular as well. But anyway, right, I'm gonna
yeah.
shut up. Let's hear what Heal Me sounds like. Let me ask you this question. As a guy who's from the old guard, what are your thoughts on post black metal? Like this band would be categorized as post black metal.
Would it?
Yeah.
That's my answer to that. Would it? Fuck. That's. I don't know. Of course, some of the vocals have a teenage angstish black metal kind of thingy there, but this for me is just desperation new metal kind of thing.
I
It's
didn't
no.
actually mind that opening riff so much. I actually thought
Oh,
when
it's not. It's
when the
not.
opening
It's
riff
not
was playing, I was
terrible.
like, yeah, that's not too shit. But when the verse starts and those incredibly lame beta male low testosterone vocals kick in, it was just like that's when I opt out. I think one of my biggest problems with post black metal is that so much of it to me sounds like grown men wallowing in misery. That's genuinely. I mean, I can't be any more honest about it than that description. But I can't fucking stand it. I
It,
hate. I
it,
mean,
it, it sounds like teenagers swallowing, man. It didn't even sound like a man. It just sounded like
yeah,
a 17-year-old just going, Mom! No, Mom! Fuck, I want to go out, Mom! That's what it sounds like.
yeah.
So, I mean, it just doesn't give me anything, but I can understand I probably have kids that would listen to something like that. But like you said, the first riff is kind of drony and okay, it's kind of, you don't know what is coming after there. But it's just kind of, it's not made for a 50-year-old man.
No, but the thing is, I wouldn't have liked this when I was young either. I was always,
No.
I think if you maybe my experience is more unique than I think, but I don't quite believe that. I think a lot of folks that I've spoken to have grown up and listened to this music for a long time. You always had those one or two people in your orbit that were these just depressed fucking weakling human beings. And I'm not saying having depression makes you a weakling. I mean, I've had struggles with that, but I think there's two kinds of people. There's people that they embrace and face the adversity,
Yeah.
and then there's people that they just give up, and nature just kind of weeds them out, if you know what I mean.
Oh
And
yes.
I always hated that mentality, and I always found this style of music to be anthemic to that mindset, and I have nothing in common with that.
No, that's there's a difference between an emo and a true or good old goth. You
Yeah.
just you enjoy the darkness, just like black metal. You embrace it. You walk into the dark. You don't sit shriveling, scared in the corner, crying, feeling pity for yourself.
Well,
I don't
we were talking about stuff earlier when we were exchanging messages, and just even listening to Sacrifice by Bathory as an example.
yeah,
It's dark music, but there's a real power to it. There's a real like go fuck yourself kind of, fist in the face power to it, and that's always been one of the biggest things that's attracted me to black metal. And exactly what you articulated about the some it needs that edge. That's the biggest issue for me. Yeah, this lacks edge completely.
there's no edge at all. There's
No.
as you said, there's nothing that kicks your ass and says, "Come on," flow through the fucking darkness. There is nothing like that.
No.
It's just, it's kind of lame. So,
Yeah,
but
no. So not entirely 0 out of 10, but it's
it's a
not doing
floppy,
much for me.
it's a
So,
floppy one.
yeah, there we go. Fluffy one. All right, we'll move on to the next song. But before we talk about this one, outside of outside of Gehenna, you've been a busy man as well. You talk about black metal that's got some fucking power. That Engong's Hammer EP, good lord, is that fucking
You like it? That's
kick
good.
ass. I love it. And it's not just me who loves it. I got probably of all of the premieres I've done this year, of which there have been many, that's probably one that I got the best response for. Just tons
Cool.
and tons of people DMing me saying this is fucking excellent. So, you will hopefully see that translate to interest on Bandcamp and stuff like that, but stellar work. Absolutely superb work.
Very cool. That's I only play bass on it, but that's all up to Knokkelman, Knuckleman, who's the guy who's running both that band and Likkjern, the other band
Yeah.
who's on that split, which means corpse pond, if anyone wondered. Engangshammer, which means one-time hammer.
Mhm.
It's just kind of a side project that he's been just pouring out when he's feeling shit, and he's good at kind of pouring it out. And I've just been hanging out there every now and then and just jumping in on some bass stuff. And then I just kind of realized that there's some true kind of spirits in the music that he makes. And
Yes.
as a good friend, it's a pleasure to help out. And I know I've told you before, but as for the audience to know as well, this is a man who's supposed to release his albums back in '96, but got completely mangled in a car crash and didn't get his album out until the last years. And he's been put together, by the doctors just so he could survive. So there's some pain and true pain and darkness in the stuff that he's doing. And I think some of the riffs, like the last riff on the song you played, that kind of droning riff,
Yeah.
there's things there that, that makes my mind travel to places. And then it's just so enjoyable to play on it
I,
too.
I, I was just going to say though, back up a little bit. I can recall us kind of talking about a top line, but I
Yeah.
haven't heard the whole detail of the story. So he was in a car accident in the 90s.
Yeah, I think it was 1996. He was, passenger to a friend,
Yeah.
and they veered off the road, and he got really mangled. I think they had to take from his thigh bone and rebuild like I don't know 7 or 8 of his spine cords, and
Holy
he
shit.
can probably one day. I've told him to try to kind of prepare for some interviews, because he's
Yeah.
got a really unique story. And the reason I'm telling this is not for people to feel sad for him, because he's not that kind of person at all. He don't like, just like what we talked about with the emos and the goths and that kind of thing. He doesn't walk around kind of feel pity for himself, but there is of course this darkness that comes with this, and he can walk about 20-30 meters before he has to grab onto something, because he kind of falls over. So his whole body is mangled, and it is still. And to see him go through that is extremely strong. To see someone just say, fuck it, I've got to go downstairs, and he has developed his own ways of playing guitar and holding the guitar, and yeah, it's impressive. I might have just sat down and said, give me all the morphine in the world and fuck it. But
Well,
he
dude,
don't.
I mean, I don't think that that's in any way looking for sympathy. I think that's, it's the exact opposite to what we were talking about earlier,
Yeah,
rather than
exactly.
wallowing in pity. That to me is truly inspiring. Which is why,
It
like
is.
when you mentioned it, I was like, just hang on. That's not, that's not just anybody that's going to do that kind of thing. Exactly as you said. Now, there's an awful lot of people that at that point would just go, fuck it. I'm
Yeah,
going to drink myself to
most one.
death, or I'm going to, overdose on morphine.
Yeah, he's got a beautiful girlfriend, and that's been with him all through this since she was 15, I think, and they're still together now.
Wow.
And the way they back each other up and go through life and all this is it's so fucking inspiring. It's kind of important. It's nice that you asked me about it, because it's important for people when they listen to his bands that you keep this in because like the first Likkjern album that he did, it's called I Ruiner, that means in ruins, and for him that means a whole lot of stuff that it doesn't mean to other people.
Yeah, yeah.
And it comes through. Music like that, it becomes, people talk about, oh, it has to be true. Well, that becomes true because it just is. That's what comes out of a soul that has been crushed by 1 inch from death.
Mm-hmm.
And
Jesus, but that's an incredible story. I'm for sure going to see if I can get him on the podcast if he's open to talking about it. I'd love to have him on.
I'll get some Vaseline and I'll lube him up, and I'll see if I can get him to talk for you.
I spoke to him on the phone actually before I
Yeah,
did
that's
that
true.
before I did the premiere, just because I just wanted to double check on a couple of things with him, and he
Yeah,
seemed like an incredibly nice guy.
he's
But
very
yeah,
very nice.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
we'll for
it's
sure
just
need to try him.
kind of new to him to do this kind of format and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like you did this format with Raven from 1349, and that worked out, and he's not the iPod fucking format guy.
No, well, I don't know what I can't remember if I told you. I have told it on the podcast before, but when he came on, I'm like, so you're going to turn your camera on? No. Thank you. It's like really threw me. It's like, but yeah, he was a very nice guy, very very nice guy. But
Yeah,
again, kudos to Gehenna. The Gehenna episode beat out Raven and Necrobutcher, and those two. I mean, they've done extremely well.
yeah.
But like that's how much love there is for Gehenna that that's been literally the biggest episode of the year. So
I'm gonna send them the link for this episode as well, so they
yeah,
can
no.
hear what I can keep saying something a million times. Maybe every now and then you should hear it from someone else like you. It's kind of easier for them to let it seep in. That it's there's a lot of people who want this kind of work,
Yeah.
and yeah, oh, that's true.
All right, let's listen to some more music. Aaron Angmar have put out a new song called Vi Victus. It says here, check out a new music video for the Aaron Angmar song Vi Victus. The latter is taken from the band's forthcoming studio album Ordo Diabolicum, due for release in winter or spring 2025 via Soul Cellar Records. See, this was previewed on Black Metal Promotion, which is typically a pretty decent channel, although they sometimes the quality control net is a little too wide for my tastes. But let's hear what this sounds like. I did see it was actually uploaded earlier this afternoon, so I am curious based on the thumbnail alone as to what this will sound like.
Yeah, me too.
Very quickly, without me telling you, can you take a guess where that band is from?
I was sitting here actually from the start. Just I don't know why, but when I was looking at the thumbnail, I was thinking Sweden, but it's well, is it Bengalis?
Well, they're from the People's Republic of the Congo. No, so they're actually pretty global. Their guitarist is from Greece, and then they've got a vocalist from where is it? Vocalist is from the Netherlands, and they've got a drummer from Italy. But I feel like that Greek influence is
Oh
particularly
yeah,
heavy there.
I was just about to say it. You can hear that on the guitar when you're saying it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, of course, because I don't know why, but ever since Rotting Christ, they all kind of go jag, 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 they love doing that stuff down in Greece with a little
Well, I was going to
chorus
ask
on
you
it.
actually. Do you know Sakis from Rotten
No,
Christ?
I met him around, at festivals and concerts and stuff like that, and he was in Norway a couple of times in the early days. But I haven't sat down and had a long talk with him. I don't know. I traded the split 7-inch with Monumentum and Rotting Christ. I think it was that one. I traded that with some letters with Rotting Christ, but I don't remember which of those guys it was that I was writing with back then. But I love old Rotting Christ, man. I love it. Absolutely.
I'm a fan of really everything that they've done. The album they brought out this year hasn't really done as much for me as like early Rotting Christ was excellent. Then Triarchy of the Lost Lovers, into Dead Poem, Sleep of the Angels, very, very good. I like Genesis very much too. And I really love that like mid 2010s period where they were kind of really bringing a lot of those Greek influences in. But this particular style that Aaron Angmar plays, I feel is extremely I'm trying to find the right word for it. It's a dead giveaway that the band is from Greece because I've had quite a few bands on the News Rant that all kind of seem to follow this similar pattern. Like for a period of time, Swedish black metal, had a very similar vibe to it. I mean, Norwegian black metal, I think you could probably argue has at least something that makes it distinctly Norwegian. But I feel like if we were to compare countries, Greece is for sure the most noticeable in that regard. And that's really because of the looming shadow, it seems, of Rotting Christ on all of these bands. You can understand it because these people probably grew up listening to Rotting Christ. But
and that Rotting Christ was I've been kind of after I was watching the Rotting Christ the Sakis episode you did. Of course, YouTube kind of catches that, so then it kind of spreads me with Sakis interviews for the next month. And I was noticing how little views it was compared to how fucking big and influential Rotting Christ was back in the early days. Especially the early 90s there. Everyone knew them and loved them and enjoyed the music, and it kind of has faded a bit away. And you talk to Sakis yourself, he's a really upstanding cool guy. He's an awesome guy with a great attitude towards the scene and to people and everything. And I feel they kind of faded away a bit. People take it for kind of granted, I think, with some of the bands, especially the bands who's been kind of releasing an album every 1 or 2 years, all through the last 30 years and stuff like that. Some of those bands just kind of, well, they are there and people kind of just don't pay that much heed to it. But it's influential like hell, like you can hear here on and a lot of the Mediterranean bands, probably all of them, I think.
Something he said in that interview that I thought was very telling, and I think I was thinking about it again now as you were talking. He mentioned how difficult he finds it to write music and to write albums because we were talking about the increased cycle between or the gap between records.
Yeah.
I can kind of hear that on Pro Christu on the new album. I feel like I don't know why this changed, but if you take Sanctus Diabolos, Theogonia, Ailo, I feel like he allowed himself a lot of creative leeway there, and it turned into something, in my view, very special. And for whatever reason, that's been dialed back a lot. The Heretics dialed it back to a degree, the album they put out in 2019.
Yeah.
Progress really dialed it back. And I don't actually think that's not them or him playing to his strengths as a songwriter. I think he needs to be allowed to feel like, and I'm sure he does, but somewhere along the line, something is kind of, whether it's self-imposed, whether it's subconscious, I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, it feels to me as a listener and a very long time fan of the band, like he's limiting himself creatively.
I know as a as a writer myself, and especially like, for example, like a band like Nocturnal Breed. Not that we have done so many albums, because there's only 7 albums, but it spans a long fucking time. And I don't know if people kind of realize that, but you get tired of yourself doing this. It's not like you kind of, go into the living room and turn on the guitar and you're like, yeah, fuck yeah! And you're coming up with all this amazing shit. That's not, you get stuck in loops and riffs and things. And I had many years I just couldn't get out of the riffs I was into, and I can hear it on some of the songs and albums, and it's like, fuck, there's that fucking thing again. I'm doing that fucking same build up, and I'm going there. Yeah. Now comes this part after that part, and maybe he's got a little bit stuck in himself.
Yeah.
If it's conscious or not, I don't know, but it's kind of hard to squeeze that stuff out sometimes, especially when it's been a long time. And like me too, I have dreams about albums and stuff like that, but it kind of gets harder and harder to put that entire soul, and you have to let go of a lot of stuff. It's a sacrifice, so to say, to do some of these albums. It's total sacrifice, actually, some of them. And
that's super interesting. It makes a lot of sense, because if you think about, I mean, I've spoken a lot about Kerry King, but he's for sure in that trap.
Yeah.
The Kerry King solo album sounds basically the same in terms of riff style as the last couple of Slayer records. Arguably Metallica is in that trap. I kind of feel like every time they try and steer outside
Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden for sure. They have been stuck in that track since No Prayer for the Dying.
Yeah.
Back in 91. And it's the same build up, the same shit that comes over, and it's like, come on, guys, don't you have anyone around who can come in and say, well, okay, we've done this 60,000 times. Let's try something different. Because it just gets boring.
How do you break out of that? Is it mindset? Would that be the right way to describe it? Like, but like, how do you unshackle yourself creatively?
This is probably, I'm sure this is different from everyone, but I use atmospheres and feelings. That's like number one thing for me when it comes to music. And then I have to change my kind of atmosphere. I change the music I listen to. I change the stuff I kind of look at, be it movies or documentaries or whatever it is. Maybe I find some documentaries about some cool bands. Very often not metal at all, Spend 2 hours watching one of the good old Depeche Mode documentaries or something like that. Just go completely in the opposite direction, and somewhere in there, sometimes I just sit with the guitar or the bass, and I just kind of play to music that is not metal, really not metal at all, not even close to it. But of course I like this or that. Maybe it's some kind of old synth keyboard music or something, and I just play to it, and suddenly it's like, oh yeah, here's this new openings. It's like opening little doors, and you kind of go, oh yeah, that together with this, and oh man, now I can skip that fucking thing I've been doing for 2 years. I can do this instead, and just let yourself be inspired. I think a lot of people, or I know at least back in the early days with black metal, it was kind of not allowed to be like fully inspired. You had to be inspired by classical music and black metal and old Celtic Frost and blah blah blah. It's like, I get inspired by Depeche Mode or whatever it is. There's an ocean of cool stuff you can, especially goth music, that you can kind of learn from. It's simple. Goth and black metal is the same thing. It's just very simple. Like you talked on the last episode about, like, for a 13-year-old, it sounds like, fuck yeah, I can do this. But there's something very special with Old Sisters of Mercy, even though it's 2 riffs and 1 bass line and you just get goosebumps all over, man, because it's just like, it's the way it flows. For me as a bass player, I can listen to that. Or earlier today, I was playing along with OMD, Orchestra Maneuvers in the Dark, their song Electricity, which is so fucking simple. It's so simple, it sounds like it's been recorded in a little cardboard box. But it's beautiful. And to any aspiring bassists out there, if you're going to have a fun song to play with, do that one. OMD, Electricity. I'm sure at the end of there, you're going to go, fuck yeah. And you're only playing like 4 or 5 tones, but it's the right fucking tones. That kind of inspiration can kind of kick me out of if I've been listening to too much Slayer or feel I'm making this or that, or
Yeah. You can't. Every single song you write can't be Black Magic.
No, it can't. You have to. And I do this thing. I know many artists do it differently like that, but I like having the title, and the title gives me a storyline in my head, and I pretend, I just play that out. That will tell me where I should put the notes in a way, and yeah.
We're going to get to a track by Imperial Triumphant in a second, because they most certainly aren't short of ideas. Not all their ideas land, but you at least have to tip your hat and say you never run out of shit to do. But something that you just said now about playing to different styles of music, Kane Kressel of the Amenta mentioned this when he was on the podcast, probably about 2 years ago. And it's something that really stuck with me. He was talking about when he coaches people on singing, he gets men to sing along to female singers, because he says it'll break kind of that really rigid frame of reference that you have of all of your favorite singers, and you subconsciously trying to sound like them, because now you're effectively singing along to somebody who it's impossible for you to sound like. Most men can't sing as high as King Diamond, so you're not going to be able to sound like Chelsea Wolfe or like Emma Ruth Rundle or something like that. But it's kind of what you were just talking about there. It's a similar principle.
Yeah, that's a very smart lesson, actually, that one. I'm going to keep that in mind. I do that a lot. I sing with everything I listen to, but I just, as you said, it's a completely different thing. As you said, I think that's why 95% of all the goth bands end up with a guy who tries to sound like Peter Steele and Sisters of Mercy and these things, and it all just sounds similar. Here, got this. Oh, I can't really get all the way down there, but I'm gonna sing here. It's like, why? Fuck that shit, man. And just sing with the voice you kind of have, and that's, for me too, that's very hard. If I'm gonna do stuff that is not screaming or growling and stuff like that, I get self-conscious like shit, it's horrible. I can really feel for when you were talking about the early My Dying Bride stuff, when they were, transitioning between growling and and normal vocals, if you can call it that. Oh, I can relate to that shit, So I'm gonna sing more to Barbara Streisand from now on.
But I wouldn't expect any less. All right, Imperial Triumphant premiere new single. It says here, New York-based trio Imperial Triumphant have dropped a brand new single entitled Hotel Sphinx. You can check it out now with the accompanying video clip directed by Steve Blanco. Like I said, these guys are never short of ideas. They've done some very interesting stuff. I thought their Paranoid Android cover, the Radiohead cover that they put on their Night in Tunisia EP, I actually thought was pretty cool. And I didn't even mind, even though I know I was very much in the minority on this one. I didn't even mind their Motor Breath cover. I just thought it was an interesting take on the song. But that being said, let's hear what this track sounds like. So I think it's good timing that we spoke about Sisters of Mercy because I was going to mention the one thing that Sisters of Mercy do exceptionally well when they're oh, when they're in their zone. If you take a song like Lucretia, My Reflection, part of what makes that song so incredible is those very subtle layers that they put over in the chorus, and it's I mean it's essentially still following the same bass line. Nothing about the song
Yeah,
has really changed. It's just those simple textures that they throw in that just amplify the power of the song, times 100. Like they're
yeah,
very good at using simplicity effectively.
yeah.
I wish somebody would tell Imperial Triumphant sometimes you don't have to try and squeeze 900 notes into the space of 30 seconds.
For me, this is just pointless jazz.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
of course there's a couple of cool tiny little soundscapes that pop out, every now and then, like 5 seconds there and 3 seconds there. But this is just stupid for me. I'm sure someone really enjoys it, but it's for me it just doesn't give me anything, and then there's no point to. I was talking about feeling and atmosphere, and
yeah.
this is just like a Polish jazz band falling down the stairs.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to describe it. It sounds like music that people listen to when they want to seem unique
It's
and
just trying
weird.
trying too hard. It reminds
Yeah,
me of some of this. You know what I mean. Those kind of people who just try too hard, and you should actually do something else.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree. I think we need to get us a little palate cleanser. Can you see the switch I've just made on the screen
Oh yeah,
to YouTube? So you sent this to me earlier. I listened to about 60 seconds of it. I think it's fucking brilliant. And like I said, it'll be a nice palate cleanser before we go on. So it's a band
yeah.
called Black Debbath. The album is called Welcome to Norway, and the song is called Mongo Norway. Like I said, I thought this was fucking cool, so I wanted to just give it a quick spin, just to let the Legion hear the kind of shit that you've been sending me.
Hey boy, you're on your way. You're on your way to Mongo, Norway. Hey boy, you're on your way. You're on your way to Mongo, Norway. Hey boy, you're on your way. You're on your way to Mongo, Norway. Hey boy, you're on your way. You're on your way to Mongo, Norway.
That's a great example of subtlety used very effectively. Just that little drum roll, right before they kickstart the original riff again. Fucking
Yeah,
excellent. Perfect beer drinking
fine.
music. This, like, if we were hanging out in the summer and we've got the barbecue going and we talking shit and we've got the beers flowing. That's the perfect music to listen to.
Yeah, and they use the Hmong word, and I think we need to use the Hmong word every now and then. People are
Yeah,
people are fucking Mongos. It's not about people with Downs, man. Just people are fucking Mongos,
yeah.
and that's okay.
All right, Becerus have put out a new a new track called "Obfuscated by Imbecility," which sounds like it sounds like they're talking about their experience of going to the airport. I
Yeah.
don't know how you feel, but dude, I despise the entire act of flying to a
Oh
degree I
fuck
can't
yeah.
even begin to tell you. I don't like. There's nothing about it that I enjoy. I hate the queuing more than anything. I can't stand sitting in a plane with a bunch of fucking idiots. I hate waiting to disembark. I hate waiting to check in. I hate waiting to on board. It's just everything about it. Like every aspect of the airport experience is my idea of a living hell. Like if there really is a hell and I'm sent there, then it would just be that on loop. Queuing for 20 hours to get through customs. that would be it.
No, that you're so, that's one of the, actually, in life, in total, one of the most energy life draining fucking things in the world is airports and traveling like that. And if it wasn't, I would have been at your doorstep 10 times by now. But fuck, man, it's like, you shed a whole year sometimes by doing this shit, and it takes 2 days to get back to normal again. Especially if you're going to, like you, I'm sure when you go to South Africa, you need a couple of days to, get back on track.
Well, I've got a coping mechanism for that. So I have 4 Quell tablets, which are travel sickness tablets, and I have 2-3 glasses of red wine, and I'm out for the count. I wake up because it's a night flight, so we leave at about 9 at night, land at about 7 in the morning, and I wake up like, I feel so rested and refreshed. And off we go. So, but yeah, just generally speaking, I can't stand it. You can understand like these bands that are really hard touring when they get pissed off or irritated in the airports, and some fucking idiot is standing in the corner with his cell phone recording. Oh, look at that guy! He's acting like such a diva. It's like, do you realize how that dude feels? He's probably hungover. He's umpteen time in this godforsaken low IQ cesspit, and you're in his face asking for a selfie and your 900 fucking things you've brought with you to be signed. So
no, I've had that experience where we were stopped like, I don't know, 6-7 in the morning. Me and my girlfriend was picked out from all the bands and guided away with machine guns or machine pistols at the airport in Munich into this bomb safety room where they had a tiny little white package that contained my bullet belt. It was just a room full of angry police just trying to stare you down,
Bro, I've had my own experience in Munich airport. It's a scary place, that. So with me, when you get a Schengen visa, legally you're able to travel to any country in the Schengen zone for as long as the visa allows you to travel. So I go there. They say that I show my passport. The guy says, "Where did you get your Schengen passport from?" I said, "The embassy or the Dutch embassy." Why do you get it from the Dutch embassy? Well, because originally I was planning to go to the Netherlands with my single pass. Then I changed my mind and I decided I'm going to come to the hi-fi show in Munich instead. Back and forth we go. He frog marches me to the interrogation room. I sat there for 2.5 hours. I had to take my laptop out, show him like, there's the fucking there's the hotel in Amsterdam that I booked and cancelled. And like the whole thing was so unnecessary and so fucking just, again, the guy just being a complete bureaucrat, wastrel job's worth. But it seems I think that airport is a haven for dickheads.
Oh, it is. And everything changed. Like I toured before 2001, 9/11, and I toured after, and that's 2 separate worlds completely. Now touring before
people, you're on a month's probation. They look at the people that are in your queue, and if they see anyone smiling when they've come through it, they go, "Sorry, sir, this isn't the job for you. We don't think that you're a great cultural fit for this airport."
That's probably what they fucking do too.
Probably. All right, let's hear what Becerus sounds like. It says here, in the wake of their upcoming studio release, Troglodyte, due out on December the 20th on Everlasting Spew Records, death metalers Becerus offer in listening a brand new track in preview called Obfuscated by Imbecility. Let's hear what it sounds like. think?
I started off laughing a bit, and then I kind of enjoyed it.
I felt the same way. It was at the beginning. I was like, "Oh, fucking hell, this is going to be a." I thought to myself, "This is slim pickings tonight. Like, can't we find something that we can agree on is great?" But actually, as the song progressed, it started to get a little better. Like, nice groove. I mean, it's very clear they listened to an awful lot of cattle decapitation in that last 25-30 second sequence. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it.
I hear a lot of D side there. That
Yeah,
kind of riffs. It's just classic Amon or D side, and I don't know if there's two vocalists or one, but the guy who don't have the inverted anal grunts, the more lasting vocals, wow, that kind of sounded a bit like old Morgoth, you know.
mm,
That's how I kind of put music together. I have to kind of hook it on something. So no, I think there was a lot of cool influences, and compared to some of the other bands we heard listen to, you can hear that they are enjoying this. They're having a good fucking time. The energy is driving the music
yeah.
forwards, and you can hear that immediately. So yeah,
So only one vocalist. His name is Mario Musumeci. He's from Italy, as is the rest of the band. He's wearing on Metal Archives a cancelable shirt. The Oscar Burzum t-shirt, which, as you know, is strictly verboten.
oh,
It makes me like him even more, but it's you know,
cheers for that.
but it's a yeah. He's in one other band, Ballotanizer, and I'm sure that I heard Ballotanizer years ago. I mean, they're a relatively old band, but they did a album in 2004 called Occlused in Obtusity. Either way, I think it's pretty good. I think Obfuscated by Imbecility is a fantastic name for a song as well.
Yeah, their band name sounds a bit too close to Baccarat, though. You know, yes,
Yeah.
sir, I can boogie. I grew
Yeah,
up on that song, man.
yeah, you're right. So they don't have new music, but this headline I wanted to mention for a somewhat different reason, which will become apparent in a second. In the Woods are now on Prophecy Productions. Prophecy Productions seem to be signing up every remotely avant-garde black metal outfit in Norway right now. They put out the most recent Trelldom album, which I was incredibly excited about, but found myself to be incredibly disappointed by. Now,
The extent,
here's
the
the
ex
question for you: are you able to expand on your thoughts on that album, or do you plead the fifth, as they say?
No, no, I have no problem in doing that. It's like an extended Galsved album. That's what it sounds
Like
like.
a not as good Galsved album, because the
Yeah,
Galsved albums were brilliant,
it's
and
kind of in between. I was just like you and everyone
yeah,
else. You know, it is. If you're gonna do it the way it fucking was. You know, at least in that kind of spirit or something like that. But it wasn't kind of having any red threads back to any of that old stuff at all. So no, it just fell flat on me. You know, that's okay.
I could not understand why even call it Trelldom. Call it
No, me
something
neither.
else. It has nothing in common with that band.
No, I think it was a kind of strange decision, but I can't kind of like comment on people's, you know, artistic kind of, you know, ambitions and stuff they want to do. But I personally don't really get the whole thing about it, you know.
No. What I do love though, and again, let's use this as a palate cleanser, and I just want to hear it. So if anyone, and I have on many occasions said, make sure you listen to this record if you haven't done so yet, because it's brilliant from start to finish. 2007, Trelldom put out an album, and this is why I'm so disappointed by it, because what you're going to hear right now, if you're at all familiar with the new Trelldom record, you'll see what I mean by the gap in both quality and direction. But the album is called Tilmina. Regain Records put it out in 2007. It's fucking fantastic. I'll give you guys just a quick 60-second taste of what it sounds like. Sorry, I'll edit this part out, but I just want to get the full thing in. Normally with these, I edit in, like if I'm doing it on Zoom because the sound quality on Zoom isn't very good, I just download the video and I splice it in, so I can talk whatever shit I want. But I do want to hear 60 seconds of this because this is fucking genius.
Yeah, I know.
That is just pure power. I mean, fucking unreal. It's such a simplistic song, but it's so hypnotic. And it just, in my view, like if you want definitive Norwegian black metal, that to me is the sound of Norway.
Yeah, now there's, as you said, it's perfect. It's the way it's supposed to be, and it comes out with full feeling. And I don't know. I don't know what more to kind of say. If people don't get it with that, just fuck off then.
So here's a question. I wonder whether he can still do vocals like those, because I know when they played it Beyond the Gates, they didn't do any old songs when they played during the Trolldom set, and I can't recall seeing him do any older songs, either his era of Gorgoroth or Trolldom when he's done Goldsworth shows. So I wonder whether or not he just doesn't really either A, doesn't want to do it anymore because it hurts his throat or his vocal cords, or he just it's not something that he can do. Because I mean, I think a lot of people underestimate how much it takes out of you, and as folks get older, they struggle to do it. They struggle to keep up with it.
I have to work 3 times as hard now to be in shape. If I'm gonna do a Nocturnal Breed show, like hour, 15 minutes, hour and a half, I need to work out for 3 months to really, get the whole thing going. And still, like now, my voice is kind of fucked up from all those years, not warming it up and not doing the stuff. And you just, go for it. But I can still do a very ugly black metal voice. But to do like a full-on Tom Araya thrash thing, I need to do some even more workouts than I'm doing now. So maybe that's, his throat has been fucked up. I don't know. Or maybe it's just he just doesn't feel like it. He's that kind of guy who just goes, nope. and then it's over.
Well, I mean, again, my criticism comes from a place of love, because I genuinely I think he's a fucking incredible artist, and I think his legacy is incredibly influential on me. And
the strange thing with him is that at least from the part of West Coast that I did Gehenna with, and I think when did Gal join Gorgoroth? Was it 98 or something? 99?
Yeah, because he was on part of Destroyer, and Destroyer came out in 98.
Yeah, then I have to ask everyone around me, who is this guy?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the people I grew up with, and Trelldom was a band we maybe had seen a flyer, and who's this? I don't know, and that was it. I had no idea. I had to go back and listen to the Trelldom albums many years later and stuff like that. I had no idea who he was, or Trelldom, or anything.
How did the scene respond to him as a character? Because he was, I mean, obviously he wasn't there in the early days, and he suddenly just kind of appeared, and then almost because of all the stuff that happened around the release of Ad Majorem Satanas Gloriam in Poland and the Vice documentary and all of that sort of stuff, he kind of became the face of Norwegian black metal in the 2000s, in the early 2000s. Like was there any, I wouldn't say resentment, but what was kind of the reaction to him by guys that had been around in the early days?
I think it was almost the same as me, apart from the people who were very close to Bergen and or for some reason have been in contact with Trelldom and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people had the same reaction like me, that well, who is this? And but there was no animosity and there was no shit talking and stuff like that. It was just like, well, okay, now this is happening, and it's that part, especially that part of the late '90s and the early 2000s, all the bands were so into, transforming and changing into things and becoming new and inventive. And he was just part of that kind of wave. You could call it new wave, second wave black metal or something like that.
Good.
Where third wave, yeah, where everyone got a little kind of jazzy. So it's kind of blended in with that. But for me, it was always a little bit straight. It was like, where were he when we were falling around in the forest? But
he's not a he's also not a guy you're going to miss. He's a he's a tall drink of water. If he showed up at Helvete or something, you'd have seen him.
Yeah.
He can't be hiding. He can't be hiding behind the shelves or anything like that.
No, but and I think it's there's respect also comes from his personality and the way he took it serious. He didn't blink a fucking second. He went out there and he grabbed you by the balls, literally.
Yeah, dude. I remember
did
seeing
his thing.
I remember seeing Gorgoroth and 1349 play, and fucking what a show that was. I mean, and both bands came out, and it was like super, super serious, like real down to business stuff. There's no fucking around. There's no talking to each other in between songs. There's no laughing, no jokes, no nothing. It's just fucking badass from start to finish.
And I'm one of those few lucky ones who got to see all the early shows with Gorgoroth. We played with them with Gehenna in '94, and I toured with them in '96. And that very same essence and seriosity and, black fuck it kind of thing, it's always been there. It was beautiful, especially when I played with Satyricon. The way they just conquered every night was amazing. That's why I commented on one of the episodes that Pentagram is the fucking album. That's because I grew up when I grew up. But to hear some of those songs in those early days when people still got a bit shocked and you saw people in the audience being taken back by, the infernal wrath coming off that fucking stage. It was beautiful. And it's cool that, Gal managed to actually, just do his thing and keep that fucking thing, even like that Chaos concert down in Poland and everything. It's still kind of like, it's still black in that old way,
Yes, yeah. It's still abrasive and in your face and rebellious and pissed off, and those are all of the things that are great about black metal.
Yeah, it should be dangerous. It should be a bit out of fucking control, especially when you're doing that kind of chaos black metal. It's fucking go for it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Did I ever tell you the story about Destroyer, the first, the first song on the record, Destroyer? In South Africa, I used to do a radio show every Tuesday night called The Inferno, which is like my metal radio show, and we used to finish every single episode with that song. That was like the sign off song. So anyway, the show actually did relatively well, And somebody on one of the morning shows wanted to interview myself and my co-presenter. So we went in, we got interviewed by her. She was perfectly nice, and at the end of the conversation, she says, would we like to play a song to give people an idea of what we play on the show?" So we said, "Yeah, absolutely." We hacked out the CD, and we played Destroyer. Now she's like this buttoned-down Christian South African girl. I'll do the accent as well. She played some fucking middle of the road pile of shit band called Little Sister. And then straight after goes into Destroyer, and she was just like, for about 20 seconds after the song, she was just silent. And it was like, "That was Destroyer by Gorgoroth, especially for Alec and Jackie." But dude, it was total fucking shock. And the best thing about it was I knew that radio station was playing in, principal's offices, in fucking, the cafeteria at the university, in shops. So can you just imagine, you're like, it's I think it was like 11:15 in the morning. 11:15 in the morning, all of a sudden you hear that fucking song start with that explosion at the beginning. It's got that like bomb going off at the start, and then things kick off. One of my proudest moments.
I hope they played it at the markets and supermarkets and everywhere.
Yeah, like I said, one of the proudest moments of my life.
Nice with a shock effect like that.
Yeah. All right, let's do one more, and then we will wrap it up. And let's see if we can find something that is suitably awesome. This one sounds like it could be good. Necrodeath unveils Storytellers of Lies as part of their upcoming and final album, Ara Mortis, to be released on January the 17th, 2025, via Time to Kill Records. Italian veterans Necrodeath offer in listening their first single, Storytellers of Lies. No idea what these guys sound like, but let's hear what the track is. Whether it stands up to our very high, lofty expectations and benchmarks. Now, this is something I must ask you, because you're a lyricist, in addition to being a musician. For anybody that doesn't know, you write the lyrics for 1349. You do a fantastic job of it. As a lyricist, to what degree does it feel like Rosie O'Donnell is trying to force you into a 69 position, reading that fucking crap that guy was singing there? Because the song itself isn't bad. But those lyrics are the fucking worst thing I have ever seen in the history of the news rant.
I don't know where to. I can enjoy shit lyrics, like all destruction lyrics that are shit just because they didn't know English at all. But it's still kind of cool. These are different days. His vocal was actually, I love the sound of his, the chainsaw vocals were great. Song isn't bad. But when those kind of lyrics come in, and not to kind of piss on anyone, but that happens with a lot of these kind of bands, and a lot of them come from South America, and I understand it's education and English is not the main language there, but fuck, they listen to Sodom and all the other bands like all the rest of us, and I learned English from that, so they can do. And put a little, if you do this much work with a song, put a little effort into those fucking
This is literally like you buy a nice looking car, the paint job is polished, the interior looks great, it sounds cool, and then somebody goes and they take a shit on the bonnet and they say, there you go, now it's done, you can drive this one off the lot.
Yeah, that's just how it feels. I'm sure the album has a cool cover, and someone's going to get tricked into buying it, and you come home and it's like, nah, fuck.
What the fuck is going on here?
Or it sells well in countries that are not that English, so to say.
Yeah. No, as I said, I don't get it, because the song itself it has all the makings of something that could be very cool.
Yeah, and it has the energy we talked about. They want to do it.
Yeah.
Sounds like the guys are having fun doing it, and the song is kind of driving itself. And it
started off, I was thinking to myself, Jesus, they've been around for 40 years. They may as well stay another 10. I'm so glad we discovered it. And then it's like, no, I take that back. Those lyrics are they're so bad. I mean, I don't normally pay attention to lyrics, but they're just so bad you can't ignore them.
Yeah, no, it's kind of child school stuff, It's actually, I wrote better lyrics than that when I played in the thrash bands when I was like 12 and 13 and stuff.
Yeah.
So, fuck yeah.
Well, brother, I want to say thank you so much for joining me to celebrate this milestone, and also thank you very much for all of the things that you've done to help this podcast, because you've stood in for me, or you've stood up for me, actually, I should say, when when others potentially have doubted. You've been a fantastic guest. We'll definitely do, certainly, if not a news rant, we'll do a full bore episode, and I'm 100% down. I'm going to upgrade my recording equipment and stuff like that. When we're in Norway next year, we're breaking the internet with. We'll get set aside an entire day and just see if we can record the longest podcast episode in history.
The more days you put into that trip, if you have a couple of days before the festival starts, I can change your life, man.
Well, we haven't bought our tickets yet, so yeah, I'll talk to you offline about that, but we'll see what we can do. And it depends on how busy work gets.
Yeah, and I have to grab the microphone for a second. Since this is the 250th episode, so to the Legion and everyone out there, that requires a salute and some nice comments and congratulations. Your podcast is really important to a lot of people, and it's for myself as well. Through very shitty years, a couple of last years, it's been an absolute help to have you mumbling and talking and making jokes about all kinds of shit and making me crack up 4 a.m. when I'm walking around with a black mind. And I'm sure a lot of other people love having you around like that too. So very grateful that you do this and that you do it as honestly as you do. You're delivering yourself on a platter to everyone, and that's the difference between you and a lot of other people out there. And for every of the people who don't know it, by the time we're going to see this episode, you're going to be a married man.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me about that at work today. I said there'll be a wave of sorrow that washes over the single women of the United Kingdom. But
I can hear them wail. They're wailing.
No avail.
Oh, that's the wailing sounds. I can hear them wailing in the winds that's coming over
whilst they listen to Harakiri for the Sky. They're like, yeah, man, the way that guy sings, it's just the way that I feel.
Yeah, no, but I just want to tell the Legions and everyone, raise a glass for Jackie and Paige. It's a beautiful thing, and I've seen you operate around each other, and I've seen the thing you got, and that's a special thing. And you give birth to horses and dogs and cats, man. What more can we say?
Might give birth to, I need to extend the legacy as well. So
Go for it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing with her because she's she's not from the metal scene at all. She doesn't listen to metal whatsoever. She listens to it when I play it in the car, but that's about it. But it's always been the thing with her where I can't put my finger on it. But I'm glad you said what you said because I think anyone that sees us together sees like it works. There's just something about it that works. I've never had a relationship that has been so effortless in terms of how well it works where
Yeah.
I mean we don't have on the surface very much in common, but I think our blueprint is very much the same. So I'm it's I've spoken about the fact that I've been divorced previously, so this is another go around for me, but it's one I'm incredibly happy and I feel incredibly privileged to be able to take.
Yeah, and you're older and wiser. And as I said, yeah, I've observed you around each other. And to all the girls and lasses out there who's missing out on Jackie now, he's an exemplary gentleman. And I really mean it when I say that you're a gentleman in the way you behave and the way you are and everything around her and around me and other people. So you're
Oh,
an
man,
outstanding guy, Jackie. I'm gonna raise my
same.
piston head to you.
Same to you, brother. I really appreciate it. And as I said, couldn't have asked for a better co-host for the news rant on episode 250. You're going to play us out with a song that you sent me earlier. It's the first time I'd ever heard it, and I thought it was the fucking bee's knees sucking on a dog's bollocks. So I will let you introduce this one.
This is one of the, I would say, top 3 best female metal songs ever. This is Fear of God and Dawn Crosby. She's dead now. She drank herself to death. I know some people who knew her and were hanging out with her in Chicago and stuff. And just listen to this woman's fucking voice and the way she makes the guys play. And all the cred to all the female bands, but I wish someone can fucking tap into this fucking energy and really let the cat out of the bag, because if you're gonna do female vocals in extreme metal, this is the way you should fucking do it. No more to say.
Awesome. All right, so there you have it, guys. We're going to listen to a song called Beyond the Veil. It's off an album called Toxic Voodoo. It's by a band called Fear of God. Whatever it is that you're doing, wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you bad motherfuckers for episode 251 and fucking many, many more next week.